Are you sick and tired of the same old legal tech conversations? Do you pine for something new? Hey, me too. Here's the good news. We've got something entirely novel just for you and for thousands of other listeners. But forget about those people right now. It's just me and you talking. Welcome to the Adventures in Legal Tech podcast. On the show, we explore effective solutions to unique technology issues. After every episode, you'll leave with actionable next steps that you can use to solve the everyday technology problems you're facing in your law practice. It's like Extreme Home Makeover, Law Edition. I'm your host, Jared Correia. I'm the CEO of Red Cave Law Firm Consulting, and I talk tech with lawyers nearly every damn day. Just think of me as a less amusing version of Chris Farley, and we'll do just fine here. Now, everybody says they're going to show you how to use legal tech the right way, but we actually mean it. Here's why and how. Each episode will lay out a specific pain point in detail so you'll know exactly where we're headed. Then, after we've laid out the problem, our guest will tell us how to solve it. We've got down-to-earth tech commentary you can understand and then execute on so you can get all the access to those amazing technology features you've heard so much about. Now, without further ado, our vexing problem for this week is as follows. Every deal, every fund, every corporate reorganization, every dispute is built on, wait for it, structure. Legal entities, ownership relationships, investment flows, contractual obligations, regulatory requirements. It's a lot. For transactional lawyers like Paul, the structure is the work. For litigators like John, understanding the structure is a prerequisite to building the case. And yet, the same tools seem to be used to understand and navigate that structure and haven't been changed for 30 years or more. PowerPoint, Visio, spreadsheets. Lawyers love a good spreadsheet. In theory, AI makes all of this easier, though not without IA. What's that, you might ask? Information architecture. But what is it? And how do you build it? All right, our guest today is Tim Follett, who is the CEO and co-founder of StructureFlow. Tim, can you help John and Paul? What should they do? What should they be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, definitely we can help John and Paul and Susan and Susanna and everyone else out there
Ringo,
who's
George.
exactly everyone who's wrestling with structural complexity. Absolutely.
So tell me about how you would let's talk about two things. Let's talk about it generally. How would you do that in general? And then how would you do it through a product like yours, StructureFlow?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's take the first piece. The problem that we're solving for is that the world is becoming more and more complex. And I think everyone can resonate with that, right? In a personal context, just running our lives is getting more and more complex. And the technology that we use to make our lives easier actually often makes life more complicated. And in the professional world, you can see that as well. There's just more laws, more regulations, more moving pieces that professionals are having to stay on top of all the time.
Right.
And that complexity for us, we're very interested in the structural dimension of that, the structure of business, the relational dimension to business. And we believe that if you go back in time, you can see people trying to manage that complexity by creating diagrams. And you can go back, a few decades and you see lots of PowerPoints and Visios being used for this purpose, lots of
Yeah.
spreadsheets. And if you go back even further in time, you can go back to the 1600s, and as soon as you start seeing businesses emerge with a certain degree of sophistication, like, for example, Dutch East India Company, you start to see org charts as well, because
This
people
is
are having to get
exciting.
their
I
head
didn't know we
around
were
it.
going to get into the Dutch East India Company today. This is great.
Yeah, yeah. And you can Google this, and lots of really interesting images come up, and there's varying degrees of sophistication. You get into the early 1900s, and you've got J.P. Morgan's corporate structure being diagrammed and submitted to Congress in the context of
Mm.
antitrust proceedings, where Congress was trying to understand, okay, what is this organization, this thing that is growing to this enormous scale and has its interests across all sorts of parts of the economy. And you see people using a diagram to understand and engage with that information, because structure is fundamentally, by definition, about a set of relationships, and relationships are best understood visually. So this is where it all kind of started with us. It's like there's something special about this diagramming thing. Why is it special? And
Yeah,
the reason for that is that it's, putting our product completely aside, the reason for that is like there's just this kind of innate value that human beings get by externalizing structure, by visualizing it.
that is cool. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about structure flow. Just give me the
Mm.
rundown on how the product works and how it fits in that world.
Yeah, sure. So I started as a corporate lawyer, M&A lawyer at Salter and May in London, and I was working with complex transactional structures that I had to understand and get my head around. And the immediate problem that I had, which brought me into this space, was that I was wrestling with PowerPoint and Visio. I was having to
Yeah.
create these charts as part of the work product.
Yep.
And I was having to do that because I was needing to understand what was going on and to explain it to clients. And I saw that the value of creating these charts was extremely significant, but actually the pain and the frustration involved with the creation of them meant that often the diagrams weren't being created when they should be, and that the process of visualization was not delivering the value that it could do in the work that I was doing. So to your question, what does StructureFlow do? There's a number of key ingredients to it, but the first is we have a canvas that allows people to create visual models of complex structures. And we come at that from a diagramming paradigm. So the software is designed to feel very familiar to anyone that's using PowerPoint or Visio. But the crucial difference is that the software understands that a box is not just a box, it represents something. It has semantic meaning, and that a line is not just a line, it represents some relationship between two boxes, two things. And that semantic data layer that sits underneath means that we can start to automate the creation of the visuals. And so the visuals then become an interface into the data. And by
Oh, cool.
changing the visuals, you can change the data. So there's this kind of two-way relationship between visuals and data. And what that then does is it allows people to go about various different types of workflow. So we've got users within law firms using the software across a variety of different practice areas and use cases, from tax to corporate to restructuring, etc. And we have users at accounting firms using the software on audit and tax structuring. We have users in the corporate in-house space, in particular in the alternatives, private equity, hedge fund space, where there's a
Oh,
lot of
makes sense.
structural complexity. We think that this is a new type of product. It's an evolution out of that diagramming paradigm, but where it can go is really, really exciting.
That's awesome. I like your take on this. This is interesting. So, whereas Pablo Picasso says a tree is just a tree, you say a line is so much more than a line. That's fantastic. One of the things that's interesting is that you're kind of creating this new category, right, which you call structural intelligence. That's a difficult thing to do, obviously. Like, how are people reacting to that? Were people aware of this before? Are they like, oh, this is great. Now I know how to think about this stuff? Like, how's that going?
Yeah. So there's an immediate need to solve immediate problems for folks that just want to create a diagram. And the trickiness is around how do you do that but also take people on a journey with you that moves them beyond just that diagramming piece into something bigger, into something more interesting, more value
Mm.
additive.
Yep.
And you can see that in a couple of ways where a law firm, I don't know if you saw this when you were in practice, Jared. I would go around the floors of the firm, and you'd see partners that would have on their walls big charts of their client structures.
Oh,
Did
I've
you see
seen some
that?
big charts in law firms. Yes. The biggest of charts.
Yeah. Like that chart is a knowledge asset. It's a map. It's a visual map to enable someone to navigate their way around that information landscape. And the value of that map is that when the client calls the partner and asks a question, it's a context primer. It enables the partner to look at it and very quickly have information recall, but also if they need to navigate their way around and look at particular documents, they can reach for that Bible on their shelf because they have in their mind associated, okay, this is what we're dealing with. Yeah, I've got that information. Maybe I do need to look at that detailed document, but I've got the high level and then I can move down into the detail. And that's kind of interesting because what you're then
Yeah.
talking about is a solution that is enabling a professional advisor to really know their client's business. And that for us is where the intelligence piece comes in. It's how can we enable our clients not just to draw pretty diagrams faster, but to have that intelligence that adds value to the work that they do for external or internal clients.
That's cool. I think that's a really interesting way to look at it. Let's jump back in time for a second here. We like to sprinkle in different questions here and there. You talked about how you were in practice, how you started Structure Flow, why you did it. Why did you become a lawyer in the first place? How'd you get into the field?
That's a good question. I didn't know that I was going to be a lawyer. I studied history at university and I
Oh,
had a
the Dutch
fantastic time.
East India Company now makes much more sense as a reference.
I mean, I'm always interested in like how things came to be as they are because then you get like a much deeper, more rounded understanding of why things are as they are. So
Right.
I loved history because I always felt like it was like being able to kind of transport yourself to a different world
Yes.
and sort of immerse yourself in a different world. And the honest answer to your question is I finished my history degree and I didn't know what to do. And I tried my hand at, various stuff from making coffees to applying to sort of management consulting and advertising and all the rest of it. And I didn't have much luck with that. And then I got to the end of the summer, year after I finished university, and my dad rang me up and he said, "Look, son, you need to get a job. You need to get your act together." And I have just seen in the paper that the clearing system for what was then the College of Law for the GDL program, the conversion program in the UK, is still open for applications. And I think,
Hmm.
as your father, that you should submit an application. I think you would like being a lawyer. And I had lots of friends who were on the law track. And so I took my dad's advice and I submitted an application. And then I joined the GDL and I wasn't sponsored at that point, but a few months into the program, I thought, yeah, I do want to do this. And I applied to Slaughter and May's trainee vacation scheme program. And part of the reason I applied there rather than anywhere else was that it just required a cover letter and a CV.
What a great story. Speaking of, I'm an English major who had no clue
Hmm.
what I was going to do when I so I was same boat as you. I have to say the history thing is interesting. So like, I should share that my favorite podcast, other than this one, of course, is The Rest Is History with these two
Oh,
cheeky British dudes. Do you listen?
yeah, I'm a big fan.
All right. I
Yeah.
figured that would be right up your alley. All right. So after you're done listening to us today, go check out some episodes of The Rest is History. It's maybe the best podcast going. All right. So let's jump back into the the diagramming context stuff for a second. So you've previously called diagrams a context loading mechanisms for the human brain. I am too
Yeah.
stupid to understand what that means. Can you unpack it for me a little bit and why it's important to lawyers?
Yeah. I mean, in the world of AI now, it actually makes you sort of look at the similarities between the way the human brain works and the way LLMs work. Diagrams, they are a way for a human brain to very quickly absorb a lot of information in order to process something. And that is a really that's part of the power of them, is that they leverage our visual ingestion, data ingestion mechanism.
Mm.
We can absorb a lot of information far faster visually than we can through just reading a whole block of text. We can see stuff in parallel. That's one of the most amazing things about visual ingestion, is that it happens in parallel. With text, it's line by line, word by word. So if you
Yeah,
think
that's
about
interesting.
it, yeah. So like if you think about it, the diagram is a context loading mechanism. And what the diagram allows you to do is then kind of trace relationships around an information landscape. And if you look at a lot of kind of cutting edge stuff at the moment around how people are thinking around how do you give an LLM context in an efficient way, in an economic way, there's quite a lot now that's looking at graph as opposed to RAG, being able to
Do you want to quickly explain what that means for people who may not understand it, and then feel free to jump back in after that.
yeah, so graph is essentially a number of objects connected to each other. And you think about this at school, you may have seen network diagrams that say things like lion is a type of animal, zebra is a type of animal, lion eats zebra. Okay, so that is an information graph. And it's directed because, the zebra doesn't eat the lion, eats the zebra, right? And then if you look at a structure chart, it's company one owns company two. Company two doesn't own company one, it's the other way around. But company one and company two are both party to a contract. And so you start to see this semantic structure emerge. And that's what these charts do. That's what they've done historically. That's right at the core of what they do.
Right.
So as a mechanism to
And
allow
and then in terms of
you go,
RAG, like I don't know that a lot of attorneys are still familiar with that term, retrieval augmented generation. Can you talk a little bit about
yeah,
that and how that functions in this whole thing?
yeah. So I mean, RAG as a system of being able to condense chunks of information down with some kind of DNA or essence that is kind of surfaced, that then enables an LLM to be able to traverse all of that information and pull out the relevant parts of that information as it needs to retrieve those relevant parts of information.
Mm.
That effectively it's a knowledge storage mechanism. And there's been a lot of work that's been done on RAG-based systems, and with a high degree of efficacy, because everyone's wrestling with this challenge of context, right? There's only so much
Yes.
information you can throw at an LLM at one point in time. So how do you give the LLM that mastery of an information set so it can navigate its way around it? Well, graph is another way of doing that. And I think it's very interesting when you draw these parallels between, okay, well, the human brain uses graph, and it has done for, as I said earlier, hundreds of years, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but also LLMs. There's a lot of research coming out now that's showing that LLMs use graph in very effective ways in order to traverse complex information. And if you think about structure, what is structure? Well, structure is architecture. So this idea of like information architecture, that's actually at the heart of what we do, because we're putting structure in place. The act of diagramming is the act of imposing structure.
That was great. Thank you for running through all that. So you mentioned artificial intelligence quite a bit. Thanks for unpacking that a little. So one of the questions I would have is, I think at this point, like lawyers just want to talk about AI all the time. We're sitting here talking about structure. So do you want to say a little bit about how that relationship works and how it could go wrong between AI and structure?
Yeah, so I mean, we think about it like they're complementary and
Yeah.
not competing, because AI is extraordinarily powerful at processing information, but it needs something to reason over. So in complex transactional or disputes work, the thing it needs to reason over is often structure, because all of the documents, all of the data is describing structure. It's like, yeah, you can have mountains of legal documentation, and yes, there's a format to that. It's rights and obligations, and it's boilerplate and it's substantive clauses and all the rest of it. But like, what's actually being described in that information is structure. So when you create a structure in StructureFlow, you're not just drawing a picture, you're creating a graph. There are
Mm.
typed entities connected by types relationships. The visual model is there. And you're creating a way for a machine to traverse that information set, but also for the human brain to traverse it together. And that's what we think is kind of super, super powerful. And if you get our view is that if you get this wrong, if you deploy AI without the right structural foundations, you can get acceleration, but maybe not direction.
Yep.
We
Yep.
think there's a really important, powerful role for structure to play. And I'm not going to claim that we're completely there yet in terms of our products. I'm not going to say, okay, yeah, like this is what we
You haven't
do right
figured it
now.
all out.
No, we haven't. But we think this is important. We think this is important for the technology stack and the ecosystem.
Let's do one more fun question, and then we'll end back on an AI note. You're in London. You tell me it's a little hot there, a little hotter than usual. Summer's coming up. If I'm going to London this summer, what's something I have to do?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a really good
You
question.
could hit me. You could hit me with some multiple things as well.
I mean, go watch a game of cricket. I think that's a good place to start.
Okay. Never seen a
Go
cricket game before.
go to Lords. Take a newspaper with you. It's that kind of game. You want to sit there and enjoy the sun. Hopefully, it will be sunny, but have a couple of beers, some warm ale,
Now we're
uh,
talking.
with your straw boater, and enjoy a kind of quintessential English experience.
Okay.
That would be a
What
suggestion.
is what is a straw boater? I've never heard of that before in my life.
It's a type of hat. It's rather different to the one that you're wearing at the moment.
Really?
It's
Really?
wide brimmed, and the brim runs 360 around the head. I mean, you can tell from my
Oh
haircut that
yeah.
I am a lover of hats, somewhat by necessity.
The straw boater looks amazing. I think I might just buy one in advance. All right, thank you for the tip. I appreciate it. All
Yeah.
right, last question for you. So
Mhm.
I feel like when everybody's talking about AI, there's always some movie analogy that they make where they're like, when this goes wrong, it's going to look like the singularity in Terminator or whatever. If there is a minority report version of legal AI. What does
Hmm.
that look like?
Yeah, well, I mean, like without this seeming too staged. Yeah, I mean, like the minority
It's only a little
report.
staged.
Yeah, just a little bit, but we'll run with it, right? But yeah, like folks of a certain vintage may recall an early noughties film with Tom Cruise called Minority Report, and
Yes.
in that film there are these interfaces, these see-through control surfaces that Tom Cruise's character, uses as a crime investigator to navigate his way around a complex information set relevant to the
Mm.
crimes that he's investigating. But he's able to manipulate that control surface, moving different parts around, zooming in, zooming out, and then take action from that control surface. Very much like a graphical user interface that we're all used to using in Windows or Mac or whatever. But it's kind of tactile and it's dynamic, and it enables him to have complete mastery over all of the complexity that he's working with. And I,
Mm.
and my team, we believe that the legal profession and the broader professional services industry, it needs its minority report moment for
Mm.
structure, and that there's a role that that type of interface has to play alongside textual, chatbot, tabular interfaces that we're all used to working with. But that kind of structural interface as a place where you can not just read, but you can understand and you can do, is hugely
Yeah.
important.
I have you seen the new Chris Pratt movie called Mercy yet?
I haven't. No, is it good?
No, but the concept is there is a you have if you he's on trial for murder and he gets 2 hours to prove his innocence. It's an AI judge, and he has like an AI interface where he can request things and move the investigation forward and do whatever he needs to do to try and exonerate himself. Um,
Nice. That sounds
it,
super cool.
I mean, it had a lot of potential. You can be the judge. You can be the judge. Check it out,
Have,
Tim.
have you
Any
seen?
last thoughts? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask you. Have you seen Hail Mary?
No, not yet. I heard it was
I mean,
good though. Have you?
yeah, I have. I've read the book as well. It's super interesting because it was written only in 2021, but kind of pre-generative AI. So the machine that the main character is talking to is like basically stupid. If you don't talk to it in the right way, it doesn't understand what you're saying. And it's kind of just
Yeah,
really interesting how much has checked. Like even the sci-fi writers, like 4 years ago, couldn't
yeah.
predict kind of like what was going to happen just in that period of time. It's kind of nuts.
Yeah, my wife was telling me the book was really good, and I think she
Mm.
saw the movie and she said it wasn't as technically interesting as the book was. They glossed over a lot of stuff. I
Oh yeah,
didn't know
that's
we'd
right.
get to movie reviews, but here we are. Any last words before we finish up? This has been a lot of fun.
No, it's been great. Nothing more to say, Jared. I really appreciate you taking the time to have me on your show,
Oh, my
and
pleasure.
I'm a subscriber. So yeah, keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir. All right, well, let me say some things about you. Tim, thanks for coming on the show. We did it, as I just said today. We spoke with Tim Follett of Structure Flow. For more from Tim and StructureFlow, visit structureflow.co. That's structureflow.co. The website will be in the show notes. Join us for our next episode when I'll tell you all about that time I wrote the chorus to Sexual Healing for Marvin Gaye. That is for sure true. Or we'll just do another legal tech Q&A, I suppose. All right, everybody. Twist my arm. See you next time.